It has been leaked hours before the official release at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The Dolphins schedule has been leaked online. We're going to take a look at every game because based off other sources as well, it seems like this is the official schedule, so we got it out early. And I want the people to get their predictions in the comments section. What will the Dolphins record be in 2025? You can change your answer after you see the schedule, but I want to get the initial thoughts down below. All right, so according to some leaks, we'll be starting the year in Indianapolis on the road in week 1, and then the home opener is against the New England Patriots in week 2. A fascinating schedule, by the way, because you open up against the Colts in Indianapolis, and then 3 straight divisional games, with 2 of them being on primetime. Another early season Thursday night football game in Buffalo, which is good that it's in September, on Thursday Night Football, and a rare Thursday night to Monday night game as you return home to host the New York Jets. Then you move over to the middle of the season schedule. That is pretty favorable, if you ask me. In Carolina for Week 5, back home against Justin Herbert and the Chargers in Week 6, and then back-to-back road games in Cleveland and Atlanta. Cleveland early enough in the season where you probably should not have to deal with super cold weather there. And Atlanta, obviously, Week 8 on the road. That is in a dome. Then a gauntlet, if you will. Week 9, you return home to play the Ravens on Thursday Night Football. Then you go back home and stay there against the Bills in Week 10, and then obviously against the Commanders in Week 11. Not a home game. That is a neutral game in Madrid, Spain. No surprise here. Dolphins have their bye week following going overseas to Spain. Then they go back home. So technically, they will be playing at home, or at least in warm weather environments, for 4 straight games here against the Saints. The final 5 games of the season, a little bit of a tougher schedule, if you will. In New York, could be cold weather there. In Pittsburgh on Monday Night Football against the Steelers, that's going to be a tough one. Back home against the Bengals on Sunday Night Football, home against the Buccaneers in Week 17, and you round out the season on the road in a what could be a very meaningful game against the New England Patriots. So that's the schedule. We'll talk about some of the games more in depth here, but this is why you subscribe to the channel, by the way. We're 300 away from 70K, so help us get there by subbing and joining our family. But the schedule isn't officially released for hours and hours and hours, and we got it already here on the channel, so that's why you subscribe. But we also have daily videos. We'll be live and do watch parties for all 17 Dolphins games. We go weekly live shows in the offseason already, and we have Dolphins news and rumors on tap as well, so hit that sub button. All right, quick little summary before we look in depth here of the schedule. A little bit of a shocking one. So the Dolphins have 8 home games, 8 away games, 1 neutral game, which is against the Commanders in Spain, technically labeled as a home game, so they lost a home game, unfortunately. But then how about this, folks? 6 primetime games. 6! They play 2 Monday nights, 2 Thursday nights, a Sunday night, and then the Spain game. So I count that as 6 prime games, 5 technical prime times, but then you add that standalone game against the Commanders. That's 6. I can't believe that the Dolphins have that many standalone games. And then their Week 12 bye. All right, so let's look in depth more at this schedule because the early season divisional games is very fascinating. And I think this is a very favorable start, right? Like, you play Indianapolis in Week 1. That should be a win. The Colts quarterback situation is terrible. They don't know what's going on. Like, you should be able to win that game. You have had so much success against New England at home, and it's going to be a warm, hot game against the Patriots in Week 2. Like, that should be a win. That Bills game, though, is going to be fascinating. And that is now back-to-back seasons that you play the Buffalo Bills on Thursday Night Football in September. You played them in Week 2 last season, the infamous game where Tua Tagovailoa got concussed. And it's lucky, though, I will say, that you are playing Buffalo in September. So it will not be a freezing environment. It will be good for the Dolphins to have a neutral, weathered game against the Bills in Buffalo. It's just interesting that they continue to put this game on Thursday Night Football. It should be a fun one. Let's hope that Tua doesn't get cussed against the Bills on Thursday Night Football again. And then obviously return home for Monday Night Football against the Jets. So honestly, early thoughts here, you might be able to go 3-1. And then you go to Carolina in week 5, to Cleveland in week 7, to Atlanta in week 8, and home against the Chargers in week 6. Like, initial thoughts here as well. Like, you should be able to beat the Panthers on the road. You should be able to beat the Browns on the road, especially since it's not going to be cold mid to late October. But everybody's going to be talking about this game right here, and they should absolutely be discussing this one. The Tua versus Herbert, the last time these two teams played, it was the shootout early 2023 season where Miami got the dub on the road. Now it's in Miami. The Chargers are an interesting team, man. They're a good ball club. They made the playoffs last year. A team that if Miami wants to be in the playoffs this year, they're going to have to be at home and jump them in terms of records this season. Like, this is a very pivotal game for Miami. And overall, when you look at this quadrant of games here, you mix that with the quadrant of the first 4. Like, if I'm being honest, and we'll talk about this at the end of today's show, the Dolphins should absolutely be at worst 5-3 through their first 8 games, but I would be aiming for 6-2. You should be able to beat New England at home in week 2. You should be able to beat the Colts on the road in week 1. You should be able to beat the Jets at home in week 4. I'll give you the loss in Buffalo in week 3. So those first games, you should be 3-1. And I think you should go at worst 2-2 here. Carolina and Cleveland, those should be 2 wins, even if they're on the road. I think you can split the Chargers and Falcons, even though one at home, one on the road. So if you split Chargers-Falcons, you win both games on the road against Carolina and Cleveland, and you go 3-1, like I said early, that's a 6-2 start, and you start to have some momentum going into the back half of the year. Not my official prediction yet, but I feel pretty good about that. Before we get and break down the rest of the schedule, make sure you get your Dolphins jerseys for the season up ahead. Chatsports.com/Dolphins jersey. You can get rookie Kenneth Grant. You can get Jalen Waddle, Tua Tagovailoa, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Phillips, any player, any size, any color, any style. Make sure you're representing the Miami Dolphins at all times and don't kind of procrastinate to get your jerseys. Links in the description and comments of today's video. One more time, chatsports.com/Dolphins jersey. And I think it's so crucial for Miami to start off hot, go 6-2, 5-3 at the absolute worst, because this stretch is just brutal. Yeah, you have all of them at home or at a neutral site, but this is a tough stretch, man. Baltimore is one of the best teams in the NFL. Buffalo has owned you for the past 3 years plus. And then you have to play a tough Commanders team in Madrid, Spain. You get that bye week. Like, you should absolutely, without a question, beat the Saints in week 13. So when you talk about this 4-game stretch by Miami, you have to hope and pray for 2-2, but 1-3 is in the cards here. Like, I'll give you that win, but can you get one of these 3? Just give me one. You go 2-2 in that stretch. You start 6-2, and we're talking about an 8-4 club going in the final 5 games of the year. And that is very enticing. But obviously the headliner here is going to be this Week 11 matchup on November 16th in Madrid, Spain. Commanders, are they going to be able to keep up the success that they had last season? Went 12-5, made the NFC Championship game. Miami looking for a rebound. And I anticipated the Dolphins having a Week 12 bye because they usually give a team a bye after they go outside of the United States to play a game, unless you are staying there for a second week like the Vikings are this year. But, yeah, Miami plays Commanders, and then they get to play or have a bye before playing the Saints. And then rounding out today's schedule in the show, it's interesting because you play the Jets in Week 14. That is the first week of December, so that will be cold. Not great. And then you play the Steelers in Week 15 on the road in a night game, which will be December 15th. A pretty cold environment. Then you come home for Bengals and Bucks. Like, your final 5 games are going to be interesting. Who knows? The Jets might be really bad in taking at that time. Who knows what happens with the Steelers? That could be a bad team if Aaron Rodgers gets hurt or doesn't even sign there. Cincinnati at home is going to be tough. Tampa Bay is going to be tough. because they're going to be a competitive team. And then the Patriots on the road in week 18. Like, your last 3 weeks are going to be against, in my opinion, playoff caliber teams. And the game that scares the living shit out of me is this one right here in week 18. In January, in Foxborough, against New England. Who knows? Maybe the Patriots are out of the playoffs, but I project New England to take a step forward with Mike Vrabel. Year 2, Drake May. They signed Stephon Diggs. They made massive upgrades to their defense. Milton Williams, Carlton Davis, the linebacker core. They addressed the offensive line. Like, I think New England's going to be fighting for a playoff spot. I would not be shocked if the winner of this game is ultimately in the playoffs. It's unfortunate that it is going to be played on the road in Foxborough, but that's why you need to take advantage of your early schedule. I said the Dolphins through the first 12 games should be 8-4. And then you get those final 5 games. Can you go 2-3 in those final 5 games, a 10-7 record? That might be good enough for a playoff spot. It might not, depending on tiebreakers. But this game right here, I am projecting it will mean a lot. It's going to be a tough one on the road against a team that is going to predicate themselves on running the football and being more physical at the line of scrimmage too. But Miami addressed the defensive line and offensive line throughout the draft and free agency. So maybe they are going to be able to be up to the task in that game. All right, we went through every single game. What game are you most excited about this season? Let me know your thoughts. What week, what team that you're excited to watch? All right, final thoughts on the Dolphins schedule. First glance, we'll be looking more in depth in my official early record prediction. Will go out on the channel tomorrow. But my final thoughts, and it's a theme that I've discussed throughout this entire show, this early season schedule is very favorable. You need to go 3-1 against the Colts, Patriots, Jets, and Bills early on. You do. And that next quadrant, you need to go 3-1 again. You should be and you need to be 6-2 before you get into the gauntlet that is Baltimore, Buffalo, Washington. And in the final 6 games of the season, you should be able to go 3-3. If you do that, you go 10-7, and you're hopefully back in the playoffs. Not going to guarantee that happens, but it's something where I could see, and I think the NFL did the Dolphins a solid. I really do. They have a lot of primetime games. They closed the season on the road in New England and in Pittsburgh, in New York late, but you were bound to always have cold weather games on the road. You weren't going to escape that. But I think the Dolphins got a pretty favorable schedule here, and hopefully they're going to be able to take advantage of it. All right, that will do it for this episode. This is why you subscribe. Like we said, we had the Dolphins schedule before anyone else. So hit that sub button and stay tuned for more Dolphins content.